Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the podcast. And today I'm going to go my review of Monday Night Raw. Starting off tonight, we have Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins comes out to the ring. He is joined by Paul Heyman and Braun Breaker. Rollins talks about WrestleMania. Rollins then mocks Punk and Reigns. Rollins says that the future of the business runs through him. After that, Rollins is interrupted by Sami Zayn. Zayn comes out to the ring, says Rollins' new team is a load of crap. Zayn says that Rollins might be jealous of CM Punk and Roman Reigns. Speaking of Roman Reigns, Zayn compares the new team of Rollins to the Bloodline. Rollins says that this is not the Bloodline. Rollins gets frustrated with Zayn. Rollins says that he can move Zayn off Raw. Rollins tells Zayn that you're either with them or against them. Rollins says that he wants an answer from Zayn sometime tonight. Some interesting stuff there between Seth Rollins and Sami Zayn. Moving on from that, we go into our first official match of Monday Night Raw. It is Rhea Ripley versus Roxanne Perez. I thought it was a good match. Back and forth matchup between Ripley and Perez, with Rhea keeping the pace of the match. Rhea then hits a Razor's Edge on Roxanne Perez for a devastating Razor's Edge. Julia is here. Rhea then attacks Julia ringside. Julia then attacks Rhea. The match ends in a disqualification. Io Sky is here to help out Rhea Ripley from the attack from Julia and Roxanne Perez. Io then attacks Roxanne and Julia, pretty much saving Rhea Ripley. Moving on from that, we have Logan Paul. Logan Paul comes out to the ring, grabs a microphone, and Logan talks about the win over AJ Styles at WrestleMania. Logan Paul then mocks Jey Uso. Logan then says he wants a world title shot. Jey Uso is here. Jey then mocks Logan Paul, telling Logan that there's no way a YouTuber is going to take the World Heavyweight title away from Jey. Jey says that what Gunther did to him changed him, especially after what he did to Jimmy Uso. After that, Jey Uso then attacks Logan Paul in the middle of the ring. Moving on from that, we have a tag team matchup. It is J.D. McDonough and Finn Balor taking on the War Raiders. I thought it was a good match. Back and forth matchup between both teams, with J.D. McDonough and Finn Balor keeping the pace of the match. J.D. McDonough then hits a moonsault to the outside, taking out the War Raiders. Ivar then gets up, throws Finn Balor into the New Day that were sitting at the commentary desk. Carlito then attacks Eric. Penta then comes out of nowhere, attacks J.D. McDonough, which allowed the War Raiders to hit the War Machine on J.D. Pins for the 3, and your winners of the match are the War Raiders. Hats off to the War Raiders for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we have Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch comes out to the ring, grabs a microphone. Becky talks about Bayley being taken out of WrestleMania. Becky said that it was herself that attacked Bayley, which caused Bayley not to be a part of WrestleMania this year. Becky then mocks Bayley. Becky then calls Lyra a loser. After that, Lyra Valkyria comes out to the ring. Lyra said that Becky will do anything to get ahead, even stepping on those that are trying to help her. Lyra then calls out Becky Lynch for a matchup at Backlash. Lyra says that she has no interest in being the next Becky Lynch. Lyra says that she knows she's a better wrestler than Lynch. Lynch gets pissed off, but Lyra ends up attacking Becky Lynch. Moving on from that, we have a Rusev video package. Rusev pretty much issues a warning to the locker room. I personally thought the video package was weak, considering the video packages that we got in AEW from Miro when he was the Redeemer, which I will talk about towards the end of the podcast. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is Ivy Nile taking on Stephanie Vaquer. I thought it was a good match. Back and forth matchup between Ivy Nile and Stephanie, with Stephanie keeping the pace of the match. Stephanie then hits a devil's kiss on Ivy Nile in the middle of the ring. Ivy Nile then gets up, hits a German suplex into a pin for a near fall. Ivy and Stephanie both exchange in the middle of the ring, but Stephanie hits a SVB on Ivy Nile, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Stephanie Vaquer. Hats off to Stephanie for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we have Pat McAfee. Pat McAfee pretty much cuts a promo, best promo in his entire WWE career. He stands on top of the announce table, grabs a microphone. McAfee talks about what happened last week with himself and Gunther. Pat then talks about his life and what he's gone through up to this point. Pat says that when he's known to be loyal. When he dies, he wants to be known as being loyal, minus some other things. Pat then praises Michael Cole, calling Michael Cole one of the greatest of all time. Pat says that he has to back up Michael Cole and that's his friend. Pat then calls out Nick Aldis. Aldis is here. Pat says that he wants Aldis to lift the suspension from Gunther so Pat can finally get his hands on Gunther. Aldis says, you know what? It will be the ring general Gunther taking on Pat McAfee at Backlash. I'm definitely looking forward to that matchup between McAfee and Gunther. Moving on from that, we have Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins comes out to the ring. Seth then calls out Sami Zayn. Zayn is here. Rollins talks about the history that he has had with Sami Zayn over the years. Rollins then tells Zayn that he is one of his best friends. Rollins then tells Zayn to take the way out. Zayn then gets a microphone and says that he thinks Rollins is playing games. Zayn tells Rollins that he will become a world champion one day. Zayn then tells Rollins to go to hell. Braun Breaker and Heyman are here, which gets us into an impromptu matchup to close out Monday Night Raw. It is Sami Zayn taking on Braun Breaker. I thought it was a good match. Back and forth matchup between Zayn and Breaker, with Breaker keeping the pace of the match. Zayn then goes for a haluva kick on Braun in the corner, but Braun counters it with a devastating spear, followed by another spear. Rollins then tells Zayn to take the deal. Zayn then tells Rollins once again, go to hell. Braun then hits another spear on Sami Zayn. It looked absolutely brutal. Referee then wants the EMTs to check on Zayn, but Rollins then tells Braun to take Zayn out. Braun then gets out of the ring, runs around the ring, hits another spear on Zayn. Referee then sounds for the bell. Rollins then gets in the ring with Braun Breaker and Sami Zayn. Rollins tells Braun that he could be the future of this business. Rollins then turns around and quickly hits a foot stomp, laying Sami Zayn out in the middle of the ring. A couple of things I want to talk about, man, when it pertains to Monday Night Raw before I get the hell up out of here. Number one, honestly, the main vocal point on Monday Night Raw last night was Sami Zayn and Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins and what he's been doing as of the past couple weeks, from WrestleMania to him forming this new alliance with Paul Heyman and adding the addition of Braun Breaker. Everybody has been talking about this and what the game plan is here with Seth Rollins. Me personally, I think this is something here between Seth and Sami Zayn that's going to build into WrestleMania 42. It might be crazy for a lot of people to really think about that, considering the fact that we have a whole another year until we get WrestleMania. But I'm going to be honest, man. I think this is something that's going to slowly build into a Sami Zayn, Seth Rollins feud leading into this year's WrestleMania. It could be before that. I don't know. But the way it's looking, it looks like this might be the next big feud going into WWE leading up to WrestleMania 42, which, I mean, honestly, for what it's worth, I'm locked in. I told you guys this last week when Braun Breaker joined the likes of Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman. This is kind of a Dangerous Alliance 2.0 being, headlined by Seth Rollins. So I don't know who else they're going to acquire for this stable. There's been a couple of names been thrown out there. I know one of the names was Austin Theory. For what it's worth, man, if Austin Theory can get away from Grayson Waller, I think he'd be a great addition to Paul Heyman's new Dangerous Alliance 2.0, to be honest with you. Because at the end of the day, it's not like Austin Theory can't wrestle. Adding Theory to Braun Breaker and Seth Rollins, it might do Austin Theory very well, to be honest with you. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but it's still yet to be seen. I know a lot of people are bringing up Becky Lynch, especially with her turning heel. I could see it and not see it, to be honest with you. I think she has her hands tied right now with Lyra Valkyria. That match is most likely taking place at Backlash. It's not official yet, but that's the way it's looking. But that was the main vocal point last night with Seth Rollins and Sami Zayn. Rollins and Breaker ended up beating the hell out of Sami Zayn at the end of the night. And it looks like Zayn is not leaving Monday Night Raw, and he's staying put. He's not going to SmackDown. The other vocal point I would say for Monday Night Raw last night would be Logan Paul. A lot of people that I've talked to were legitimately pissed off that Logan Paul pretty much called out Jey Uso, considering the fact that Logan Paul, at least in their eyes, Logan Paul hasn't really done much as of late to really earn himself a World Heavyweight title opportunity, even though he just beat AJ Styles at WrestleMania. My thought process is this, man. Am I, a super big fan of Logan Paul in WWE? No, I'm not. I'm not. Personally, as a fan, I'm not a big fan of Logan Paul. But what I will say is this. Really, at the end of the day, two things. Number one, the biggest one is who really is next for Jey Uso at this point. A lot of people are already tied up in storylines seemingly at this time. At least the top four superstars on Monday Night Raw are pretty much tied into a storyline. You got Seth Rollins, Braun Breaker. You got, they're all the same, in the same stable. You also have Sami Zayn now attached to the Seth Rollins storyline. We don't know what's going on with CM Punk or Roman Reigns. Seemingly, they might be tied to the situation with Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker. There's really not a lot going on right now as far as main roster talent on Raw that can really challenge Jey Uso right now besides someone like Logan Paul. It could be AJ Styles, but he also just took an L at WrestleMania against Logan Paul. So it's one of those things where it was bound to happen at some point. Do you rather have the Logan Paul match now or later? Do I see Logan Paul beating Jey Uso for the World Heavyweight title? No, I do not. But I will say that also shows you what I said when Jey Uso won the title, that I don't think Jey Uso is going to hold on to that World Heavyweight title for that long. I just don't. Call me crazy. I just don't see Jey holding on to that belt that long. I don't think he's going to have a long-lasting title reign that's going to last over a year or something like that. I just don't see it. I don't. I think Jey will eventually lose that belt. I don't know if it's going to be necessarily at Backlash. It might be in Money in the Bank. I don't know. But I don't see him holding on to that title very long. But we'll see what happens. I think, for what it's worth, I can see Logan Paul versus Jey Uso most likely happening at Backlash. Looks like Gunther and Pat McAfee will also happen at Backlash. Becky Lynch versus Lyra Valkyria. I don't know what's going to happen between Roman Reigns and CM Punk, whether they're going to challenge Rollins and Breakker. We also had the main event with John Cena defending the Universal title against Randy Orton in Randy Orton's hometown. So it's not going to be a bad card, to be honest with you. I'm definitely not going to sit here and say that Backlash is one of WWE's biggest pay-per-views of the year. I'm not going to say that. But it doesn't look like a terrible pay-per-view. Possible fatal four-way for the U.S. title with Drew McIntyre, Damian Priest, LA Knight, and Jacob Fatu. We'll see what happens, man. I mean, at the end of the day, Monday Night Raw, as of, and I wouldn't even say as of late, the Monday Night Raw after Mania was awesome. It was fantastic. I think it was a lot better than SmackDown's episode after Mania. But, we're starting to slowly build storylines, man. I mean, obviously Backlash is right around the corner, so we're obviously building towards Backlash. But I think the main vocal point, the most interesting thing going on right now on Monday Night Raw, I had to say, is what Seth Rollins is doing with Paul Heyman and Braun Breaker. And the idea of them slowly starting to create this new faction for the future of WWE, specifically Monday Night Raw. So we're going to see what happens, man. I mean, at the end of the day, am I all for this faction? Absolutely. I think this faction is going to be really well. I think Seth Rollins being, the headliner of this faction is going to be great. Hopefully they add more names to this faction. But I'm locked in, man. I'm all for it. I'm absolutely all for it. And I think it's one of those things that's going to get Monday Night Raw more intriguing week in and week out, especially now that we have the issue with Sami Zayn. How is Zayn going to come back and kind of, collect himself after what happened on Monday Night Raw last night, after, he got his ass kicked by both Braun Breaker and Seth Rollins. So we're going to see what happens, man. But I think at the end of the day, that's one of the main vocal points going on right now in all of WWE is, the storyline right now with Seth Rollins, Braun Breaker, and Sami Zayn. And Paul Heyman, I give a lot of praise to Paul Heyman. When he formed this faction, I told you guys, man, Paul Heyman is one of those guys that's severely underrated in all professional wrestling. There were some people, I remember seeing this video that surfaced about somebody, bashing ECW and bashing Paul Heyman and all ECW wasn't that great. To me, honestly, man, for what it's worth, ECW was legendary. I don't know what, people are thinking about when it pertains to ECW. ECW was game-changing. Literally. I mean, they changed the game. Without ECW, we would have never had a hardcore title for WWE. To be honest with you. We wouldn't have had those hardcore moments in WWE if it wasn't for ECW. ECW put hardcore wrestling on the map. So for those people that are like, oh, ECW shit, I don't know what you're watching. I don't know what ECW events that you're really, really sitting down and watching and actually entertaining, or, this ECW sucks, but you're not a fan of professional wrestling, in my honest opinion. ECW was game-changing. ECW was the punk rock of professional wrestling. They came in a time and just changed the absolute game of professional wrestling. So for those who are like, oh, yeah, ECW's, shit, dude. Some of the greatest matches I've ever seen has been in ECW. And I mentioned some of those matches already with, Masato Tanaka and Mike Awesome. I remember when, ECW had that show where they kind of, merged two companies into one with FMW and ECW when they brought in some people like Hayabusa. And Hayabusa had matches with RVD and Sabu. I mean, these guys are legendary wrestlers and legends that came out of ECW. You know what I mean? Future Hall of Famers. Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero, RVD, Taz, Bam Bam Bigelow made, another name for himself in ECW. Shane Douglas, the franchise. Tommy Dreamer. The Dudley Boys, really, cut their teeth in ECW. You know what I mean? So for those people who are like, oh yeah, ECW shit, I don't know what the hell you're watching, man, to be honest with you. Paul Heyman, to me, is, like I said, severely underrated. This guy has been all over the professional wrestling space from top to bottom, and he continues to keep getting better. And he's like a fine wine, bro. He keeps getting better over time. And this guy knows the business. Whether you like him or not, the guy knows the business. And I have a lot of respect for Paul Heyman. And I have the respect for Heyman in the aspect that he knows talent. He definitely 100% knows talent. Whether you like the guy or not, he knows talent. And he picks out certain talents that he's willing to work with to ultimately lift them up and put them in a top echelon in professional wrestling. So you got to give credit where credit's due, man. This guy has been in the trenches. He's also ran his own promotion, and now he's in the biggest promotion of all in WWE, and he's doing a fantastic job with what he's been doing as of late, whether it's the Bloodline or, aligning himself up with Roman Reigns, now aligning himself up with Seth Rollins. I mean, Paul Heyman can't miss, man. And, it's one of those things where, a lot of people probably overlook that. Paul Heyman is, a big-time figure in WWE, in my honest opinion. He's severely underrated. And to me, it's every time we see Paul Heyman, man, it's always interesting to see what happens next with Heyman. It's also going to be very telling to see what happens next with CM Punk and Roman Reigns. We haven't heard anything from them since they were attacked from Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker. We also haven't heard anything from Cody Rhodes after he lost the Universal title against John Cena. So hopefully we get some more insight from CM Punk and Roman Reigns, especially also Cody Rhodes, because we haven't heard anything from Cody since he lost his Universal title at WrestleMania against John Cena. So hopefully things start picking up here, soon. I don't know if Cody is going to be a part of Backlash this year. I don't know. But I'm hoping we get some kind of rebuttal from Cody Rhodes or some kind of explanation about what happened on night 2 of WrestleMania with him losing the Universal title. So hopefully we get that as well. But to me, it looks like they're slowly starting to build storyline here and build up matches leading up to this year's Backlash. And I think that's pretty much the what's going on right now on Monday Night Raw and SmackDown. But with that being said, this is my review of Monday Night Raw. I hope you guys are out there staying safe. Be careful, and remember, stay classy.